All right, mixed numbers. This is where we have a fraction and a whole number. Now, you use mixed numbers all the time. I'm pretty sure you do. Like, how much is a gallon of milk? Oh, a gallon of milk? A gallon of milk is about $3.50. Don't you say something like that? Or do you say, no, actually, a gallon of milk is $3.68. You never use fractions like 3.5? Maybe. You took a quiz, right? Maybe some of you got a score that was say a 77.5, right? Or maybe you're getting measured at the NFL Combine because you want to play in the NFL, and they find out that your height is 5 feet 11 3/4 inches. You guys don't pay attention to that?
So you're not 6? Okay.
No, you're not 6 feet tall, like me. I'm 6 feet and a half inch. Oh, that's really weird because that is not really a mixed number so much. Because it'd be like, oh, see, let's just pretend I didn't do that one. But see, this part right here, that's a mixed number. This is a mixed number. That's a mixed number. You believe me? If I say 3.5, what does that mean? Well, that means that you have 1, 2, 3 whole units, right? But then you have half of another unit. Do y'all agree? Well, what does this mean? Well, if I convert everything to be in terms of halves, because you were talking about 3.5, that means that 3 1/2 is actually equal to how many halves? How many halves are in 3.5?
1. Oh, 1,
No.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
You have 7 halves, right? Because for each of the 3 whole units that you have, how many halves are in one whole?
2.
You have 2 halves in this whole, 2 halves in this one, 2 here, so that's 2 times 3, which is 6, plus you have an extra one, right? So that means that's 7 halves. Please understand that when I say 7 halves, that does not mean 7 1/2. A lot of people get confused about that. Another way to see 3.5 like this, and this is something that's very important, you need to understand that even though they are right next to each other, that does not mean multiplication. It actually means addition. It's one of those few cases where juxtaposition does not mean multiplication. Juxtaposition meaning things right next to each other. It's a fancy word. You should learn to use it in everyday life. Anyway, if I look at 3 plus 1/2, can't you look at 3 as being 3 over 1? So if you had to get a common denominator, what would the common denominator be? Common denominator would be 2. And what factor would be missing here to make this guy to be over 2? What factor is this guy missing?
2.
Isn't he missing 2 over 2? So what's 2 times 3? There's your 6 plus the 1, so that's how we can get the 7 halves. Like, for example, if I have 5 2/3, I want to convert this to an improper fraction. 5 2/3 means you have 5 whole units, and you've got 2/3. You've got some extra stuff left over. So, how do you think I would go about converting this to an improper fraction? Or what do you think the denominator of the improper fraction would be? The denominator would be 3 because we're talking about thirds, right? Think about this. If you have 5 whole units, how many thirds are in 5 whole units? Okay, you know what? Let's just step back for a second. How many thirds are in 1 unit? My question to you is this. How many thirds make up 1 whole unit? That's 3, right? So if I have 5, then how many thirds would I have in 5 units?
15.
I'd have 15, right? How do you get that? What's the easy way? 3 times 5. Look at this. Do 3 times 5, multiply this, and then add the 2. You have 15 plus 2. And that would give you 17 thirds. And you may be going, how do I know that's right? How do I know you're not just making this up? Were you agreeing with me, Cheryl? You think that I'm...
That way's easier than the way you showed above. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is what I do.
Yeah.
But I want you to see how it's all connected, though. That's what you're really doing.
Right.
Yeah, right?
Right.
Word.
Right.
Word. So, over here to the side, if you were to do long division, how many times does 3 go into 17? And notice that I'm using a long division, not a square root symbol. How many times does 3 go into 17? It goes in 5 times. And that doesn't go in evenly, but that's not really my concern. I have a remainder of 2, right? So if I have 17 thirds, that means I have enough for 5 whole units, but then I have 2 thirds left over. 5 and 2 thirds. Do y'all agree with me on that? I mean, I could be lying to you this whole time. You guys just trust me because I'm sitting up here behind a desk. And I've got special pens that no one else is allowed to have. So what if I have this? I have 15 fourths. What is that as a mixed number? If I ask you to plot this guy, if I ask you to graph this on a number line, where does it go? How would you figure it out? I hear some whispering or something. I can't quite make it out. My bat-like hearing is on the fritz. Wouldn't you just do 5? Nope, just kidding. I'm writing everything backwards today. So you would just see how many times 4 goes into 15, right? How many times does 4 go into 15? 3 with a remainder of what? 3. So that means I would get 3 whole units, and then I have 3 out of 4 pieces left over, right? So if I had to graph this guy, here's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So 15 over 4 goes right about, so that's half. Here's a fourth. So there it is. 15 over 4 means 3 3/4. And there we go. Now, is this ever useful to us? I know some of you want to think it's not. If I were to put dollar signs in front of this, if something is $15 for 4, how much is one item? What's 15 divided by 4? 3 3/4 means $3 3/4. That's $3.75, right? So now we can have an application with money, so it makes a little bit more sense, because this is what stores do to us.
Do we need to know it on the number line?
Well, I mean, you need to know where it is on a number line so that you can make that connection from this to its position. You know, is it closer to 3 or is it closer to 4? You know, if we had to do some rounding exercises, 3 3/4, you might round to be what? 4. If I'm doing some quick, simple math, I might want to round that to 4, just so I know, am I on the right track? At least that's how I do it. Now, here's something fun for you. Real-world application. My wife sends me to the store. Actually, I ask her to let me go to the store because it's fun for me. And I was buying a bag of frozen mixed vegetables because we're going to have beef stew this week. And we have to have so many cups of frozen vegetables for the recipe. So the bag that I bought has 13 servings, and each serving is 2/3 of a cup. How many cups of frozen vegetables do I have? There were 13 servings, and each serving is 2/3 of a cup. How would you figure out how many servings are in the whole bag? What if I said each serving costs $2? How much was all the servings? Oh, I'll do 2 times 13. Well, if you have 2/3 of a cup is 1 serving, if I do 13 times 2/3, now is that a mixed number?
Yes.
All right, I've got 1 no, 2 yeses. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? I think there's a song about that. Now this is multiplication, right? Are they right next to each other with no symbol indicated? No. Multiplication is indicated here. This means multiplication. So that means I have to do multiplication here. So that's 13 over 1 times 2 over 3. And when you multiply, how do you multiply? Straight across, and what do you get? I get 26 over 3. But what does that mean to me? How many cups is that? If my wife says, "Did you get enough for the stew?" I have to be able to answer her confidently. How many cups is this? How many complete cups do I have if I have 26/3? I have 8 cups with a remainder of what?
2/3.
So I have 8 and 2/3 cups. Now I want you to notice the difference here. Is there a symbol between the 8 and the fraction 2/3? No, so this guy here means 8 plus 2/3. So I should be able to get 8 full cups and then 2/3 of another cup. When I had the multiplication symbol here at the beginning, that is not a mixed number. This is multiplication. There's something that needs to be done there. So I think the recipe calls for 8 cups of vegetables. Am I okay? Do you think I'll be okay if I throw an extra 2/3 of a cup?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be okay. Vegetables are good for you, right? Sure.
Okay, this is not, without the sign, it is mixed.
Right, without anything in between these guys, with a whole number next to a fraction, that's a mixed number. And what's really understood to be there is addition. If I'm trying to get across the fact that I want to do multiplication, then I need to show that if I'm talking about 2 numbers. Okay? Like if I want to do 5 times 7, can I write 5 times 7 like this? No, because that indicates what? 57. So if I want multiplication, then I have to do this symbol there correctly. Same thing with having a mixed number versus I'm just multiplying a whole number times a fraction.